So far, we have spoken extensively about worldview, how it influences your life, and have tried to give you some essential life skills in order to deal with it. Some of these skills have to do with thinking differently, outside of the box, understanding your thought processes, and thinking without passing judgment. You're going to run into the problem that you might start overthinking like I do. And so today's video is all about preventing you from overthinking by giving you a trick to stop you from doing it. Some of you, like me, are naturally gifted with this curse of overthinking. Both people that primarily use their head and their heart are affected by it, because as we've spoken about in the emotions video that you should definitely watch, actions and emotions are both influenced by our beliefs and they influence one another. Being anxious can make you overthink, but in the same way, overthinking can make you anxious, and these things are connected to one another. Overthinking is a symptom of an unchecked worrying mind. So what you need to get a break, a way to stop this. Although I really like pondering hypotheticals, exploring all the different possibilities that life has to offer, and there are a lot of lessons to be learned by doing self-reflection, there needs to be a limit, a manual brake to this car. For me, it all lies in the idea of 2 layers of speculation. It means that thinking about things that haven't happened yet or that might be true might be useful, because you're thinking about how would I feel, what would I do if that scenario were to happen. That's fine, you can learn a lot about yourself, but you gotta stop there. That's the 1 layer. The second layer comes when you start building on that hypothetical scenario further. There's no logical endpoint in sight once you start doing that. If, for example, you say, what if I do not succeed at this test? That's fine. You can think about, okay, how will I recover my grade? How will I deal with it with my parents? All of that is fine. But once you start saying, okay, if I do not succeed at this, might be based in reality on how you performed at the test, for example. The moment you start saying, okay, if I don't succeed at the test, then I won't get into the school that I want. Then I cannot be with my friends anymore because they won't like me. All of that. That makes it so difficult to distinguish between what is true and what is not. You've gone down the rabbit hole. You've started treating the scenario that hasn't happened yet as equally as true as all the stuff that you do know. And that's going to ruin your idea of all the other things. Your image of your friends. You might start distrusting them, for example. So remember to stop after the 1 layer. The thing is, the further you go, after the first layer, it's like building sandcastles out of quicksand. It's difficult to get all of the sand together and it doesn't stack up very much. It's not based on solid ground. It costs a lot of energy to keep track of the assumptions that you're making and distinguish it from what is true. And at some point you might even just forget what is real and what is not, and you get into scenarios like doubting your partner because they cheated on you in a dream, or you go resentful of people for failing to live up to an expectation you had of them in your hypothetical scenario. So the biggest reason why you need to limit yourself to that 1 layer is that it's so much energy. It becomes very tiring to do. And the further that you go up the layer speculation without clarifying, we'll get back to that later, it becomes impossible to just live like that. So, the only way to get into further thought without spiraling is to do the thing of clarification. You communicate to the other what your expectations are and you can get an answer, so that becomes reality, right? You know. And then new questions open up. So the only useful way to do this is you start at a point of reality, then you can think of hypothetical questions that might make you explore parts of yourself, and then you clarify that layer with other people if it involves them, for example, like, do you like me? And once you get that answer, only then do new questions pop up, and then you keep it being useful. The moment you start deviating from this process, especially when it involves other people, it's very difficult for them to know where it went wrong. What do you assume that hasn't been proven yet? And communication here is not just to avoid troubles of overthinking. It also helps you build your connections and become more compatible. Because the way it works is this. Once you have a reasonable expectation of someone, so based on reality, you can clarify it with them. So you're going to be either right or wrong about it. Both scenarios are a win for you, because the moment you clarify it, like, do they like me? And they give you an answer, your expectation can have been wrong or right. The moment you are right, you can say, okay, I do understand this person more than I thought, and so I can build trust in them. And if you were wrong, it's even better, because then the next time it comes up and they say, okay, last time you wondered about this and you were wrong about it then, maybe you shouldn't go so far building on an expectation that you have no evidence for. Swatting away the doubts that you have are going to build trust as well. Because effectively, you are going to calibrate your personalities, knowing what the other person is going to say better because you have so much evidence to fall back on. Then the worrying doesn't have to happen because you've been clarified so many times. So we absolutely need to stay rooted in some semblance of reality, otherwise communication with us becomes impossible. It might even go so far, and this is the biggest danger, that your entire worldview are going to be influenced by an assumption that you have not clarified and therefore no evidence for. Let me give you an example to bring this all together. Imagine a common anxiety-inducing scenario for many that gets you to overthink. You and your crush are on a date. And in my case, my crush Maria and I are on a date and she starts laughing at another guy's joke. It's usually an anxiety-inducing scenario for many. And for the girlies, what if your guy likes another girl's Instagram picture? It might make you very self-conscious. After many years of self-reflection, I know for once that I cannot claim to know what is true, because there are many ways to look upon the same phenomena, link in the description. It's very important to know that my observations are just one thing. If I see Maria laughing at another guy's joke, that might mean something, it might mean something else, but the only thing that's interesting is understanding what conditions make it seem like this. Why do I feel that it's going to mean something? Am I insecure about my own funniness, for whatever reason, of course? So remember that to keep yourself from going too far, you understand that you cannot claim to know what is true. The only thing you can do is clarify it with the other person. So let's get into the story scenario. Imagine that me and my crush Maria are sitting at some fancy restaurant eating dinner, looking stunning as usual, of course. Once the waiter arrives, it appears to be a man that is average height, he's blonde, he is quite muscled, so he's nothing like your old pal Lore. From my perspective, this guy is nice enough, he's just taking our order, so I'm nice and polite, make some chit chat and thank him when he leaves. But it seems to me that Maria is talking to him as if he knows him more than that. At some point, he says something very funny and Maria starts to laugh. Seems simple enough of a scenario, right? But now, depending on my worldview, my perspective is going to take my mind to many different places. For example, if I am very self-conscious, then I might think that this laugh means more than it does, and so I'll start getting anxiety and overthink and be way more serious about something very innocuous. My mind will go to different places saying, well done Laura, you managed to find a way to ruin yet another date. Or worse, at the moment I might even think like, wow, I need to show up and step up my game by showing her how much funnier I am than him. And so I'll take everything more seriously. I start making the worst jokes in order to prove to her that I am better. Because otherwise maybe she'd realize that he's better than me and more muscled and way more attractive, and so she'd leave me for him. So in that scenario, my mind emphasizes our difference and says that it's better somehow. Or maybe my mind will go into the alpha male scenario, being very insecure and say, how dare she laugh at his joke? Does she not know how disrespectful it is for a woman to laugh at another man's joke? All of these different scenarios that I've just spoken about are completely too far. They are 2 layers away removed from reality, because I cannot even prove the first thing. I can't even prove that the laugh meant anything in the first place. The best thing I can do at that point is just to ask my date Maria there whether the love meant anything, whether there's anything to worry about. And then she can swat away my doubts and reassure me that it's all fine. A good partner will reassure you of your doubt, but there can be a problem when you never address your inner insecurities, and so keep asking the same question, not trusting their answer, and therefore creating a rift between you two. But another scenario entirely, if I'm just confident, I will not even assume that the laugh meant anything, so no layer of speculation, we're done. If you're confident, you're running your own race, you realize she is already there with me on a date. She wouldn't have come on a date with me if she didn't like me at least enough to come with me. And so I have nothing to worry about. I already got what it takes, and if she doesn't like it, it's her loss. Also, why would one joke even make or break a connection? It was funny, is she not allowed to laugh? I could also realize that I've got many qualities worth being around for. I am tall, dark and handsome. At least that's what my mother keeps saying to me when I get reassured that I'm a special snowflake. So ultimately, to address the insecurity, you should develop your own sense of confidence. It stops the first layer of speculation from even popping up most of the time, because I never have to wonder and worry whether there is a problem. And I am confident enough to address to my partner whether there are any doubts, and if there are, then she can swat them away. And because we never even get past the first layer of speculation because of the confidence, I have no energy wasted. I can just keep enjoying the moment in the company of such a lovely lady. When I say that everything is not what it seems, it can mean a lot of things. The guy, for all I know, could be her brother. He could be her best friend, or just a good friend, an acquaintance, maybe he's gay, who knows? So, on his end, he might not even be interested in her. I don't know, maybe he's blind. Or on her side, maybe she's not interested in him at all. Like, she could have a very specific type of being, well, Lorenzo, so good for her. It's nice to get these wins every once in a while. But there are lots of ways that make you into someone or not. She might have a very strong emotional connection to me. We can have lots of passions and interests in common, and I mean, we do, and therefore she's into me. It has nothing to do with this guy, and so I could trust her for liking me without needing to think that it has something to do with the laugh or with him. Or again, he might have just said something funny, it didn't mean anything. People are allowed to be funnier than me, although it doesn't happen a lot. Of course, I want to be fair, there are also scenarios that the laugh might mean something, but that's never outside of any context. It can be that she was already dissatisfied with our relationships and she just wanted a free meal, that's possible. Or the guy could be her ex, or it could be someone that she's also dating and she doesn't want to give that away. I don't know, but the only thing I can do is to clarify it with her, and if that is true, that it does mean something, then I've got my answer, I can move on and not waste any more time overthinking. If I really want to be in a relationship with her, I need to learn how to trust her fully anyways, like I'm currently doing. And therefore, at first glance, the laugh doesn't mean anything. The scenarios that can be are actually quite simple. She either likes me or she doesn't like me, and by clarifying that, I can get rid of her easy, right? She might be unsure whether she likes me or not, and therefore she wanted to explore. Or she used to like me. Maybe even she doesn't like me right now and she might like me in the future. I am no fortune teller, and therefore the only thing I can do is clarify. As far as I'm concerned, those are the only scenarios that are worth digging into. I can prepare myself for them. The first layer, I can understand what I would feel if any of these were true and what I would do. That's fine. But going further than that is going to make me spiral and overthink and undermine the confidence that I so clearly have. Slowly but surely, as I start to explore more with Maria and start to learn more about her, I can cross out some of the worst endings by giving her the benefit of the doubt. I can stop wondering whether something is the case because we've started to clarify things. Your mind is a very powerful thing. It can make a mountain out of a molehill. And so, as long as you understand that nothing is as easy as it seems at first glance, you can start becoming a master of knowledge. It's not about what is true and what is false. It is about knowing what makes it seem that way to me. So what made it seem like the laugh meant something to me? It's because of my insecurities. So I want to end with one last tip in order to help you stop overthinking, something that always works for me at least. What I always do when I feel anxious and start overthinking, I stop myself and think, how stupid would I sound if I were to explain this to my best friend? Because you've got these people around you that are willing to call you out when you're saying nonsense. And if I have to explain what I'm thinking to him, at what point would he say, what the hell is happening? Because they do not live inside your mind. They do not know all the assumptions that you're making. And so they'll be able to call you out when you're making an assumption that is not based on reality. Unless you've got friends that are really like feeding your delusions. That's not very good. But the best people around you will call you out. That's also a beautiful thing about connections. Often our loved ones see us more clearly than we see ourselves, especially when we are emotional. And so a crucial element of self-reflection is from someone else to hold up the mirror to us. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you liked this one because it was a blast to make. If you have any other tips to stop overthinking that work for you, please leave it in the comments and like and subscribe to support the project. If there's nothing further, I'll see you in the next one.